Did you know that paintbrushes actually come in many different shapes and sizes? If you've never visited the marketplace, you probably didn't know this, but there's actually some more secrets we can get into with the paintbrushes. If I grab one of these off of here, I can actually come to any of these buckets right here or anywhere else on the map. If you find one of these, I believe you can even do this on your party island. If you find one of these buckets, they're called the dye buckets. You can click on one and it will actually equip that color to the brush. As you can see, this is now yellow, and I can make it red, I can make it Shrek green, or even blue like my cuffs, and that's quite nice in my opinion. If, however, you decide you no longer want this blue to be on your paintbrush, you can take it to any number of locations. For starters, here is one right here. There's a bucket right here. I can click on that and it now cleans the paintbrush. I can do this again in other water locations, such as right here. If I click on this, it will also empty it out. Pretty much if it's a water barrel or the small water bucket, it will be able to do that. However, if you go to, I don't know, the gay pool, for example, and click on that, it won't clean up your paintbrush. No matter how much I click on here or press E or any number of those things, bodies of water in this game cannot clean your paintbrushes. So unfortunately, the gay pool doesn't have the power to clean paintbrushes, but it does still have the power to make you gay. Even the cauldron can clean your paintbrush if you can find one. There's only, I'm pretty sure the library is the only place that has a cauldron, but if you click on the cauldron, it also cleans your paintbrush, which is a nice little detail. Something else you might not know, or maybe you have, because I'm pretty sure I've shared this in like 3 separate videos at this point, but you can actually grab the icicles and melt them on torches. Even the sparklers, I believe, will melt them. However, even though this fireplace should be just as hot as any of the other torches in the game, no matter how long I sit here or even fly here next to it, there is no way for this icicle to ever get hot enough to melt. That means this fireplace must be very secure and safe or something. I don't know, it's just very wacky, but it definitely doesn't melt icicles, which is kind of strange. I honestly kind of feel like it probably should, but I don't know. Who am I to judge? So let's take a look at these signs now. I know I've mentioned this before in other videos as well, but there's a few things that might surprise you. For one, Docks isn't a location according to the signs. It is Main Harbor. Additionally, the bakery is not a cafe. Cafes don't exist, it's a bakery. Another thing though that I didn't mention in a previous video is that there are no cliffs according to the game, it's just mountains. It's just mountains. That location up there where we always call the cliffs is technically called the mountains, which is kind of interesting. Another thing you might not know is if I go to this location at the main harbor and look at these 2 tables, these are both very small tables that can't have a broom on it. As you can see, I can't click on this to place my broom. It says I can't place my broom here. I cannot place my item here. For whatever reason, I'm unable to do so. However, you may think, oh, it's because you just can't place anything on this table. Of course, but if I pick up this lantern, I can very easily just click here, and it's not just a tool thing either, because if I grab a shovel, or sorry, a saw, and I put this saw here, I can do that. I can even grab a hammer and put that there, or rather a sledgehammer, if you will. I can even grab the hammer, and well, actually I can't place the hammer because there's too many things there, but now I can place my hammer. I can place basically every other tool in the game on this table. I gotta just make sure there's room for it. All of these tools can be placed on this table. However, brooms cannot because they are just too big. Speaking of too big, I saved probably the best for last because this one is going to be a bit of a shock for you guys, and I'm going to have to pull out proof to prove it to you guys because it might be that big of a shock. But the main menu of the game is not centered. That's right, you heard me correctly. This menu is not centered. This green box is what we're using as the center of our screen. You would assume that Skella sitting here is the center of the screen. However, doing a little bit of measurements using Bandicam, which is what I use to record, by the way, we can get some different measurements. So ignoring the fact that there's a second monitor here where you're just gonna blur that out or something like that, just ignoring the fact that it took a screenshot of both my monitors, we can look over here and it has a 750 by 151. The 151 is the height and 750 is the width. As you can see, we are literally on the edge of the 2 monitors that I have here, and it's all the way over here to the very edge of this green box, and it lists it as 750 across. Now, if we take the other screenshot I took of the right side of the screen, again ignoring the left side here, the left monitor, but if we look at the right side, you can see that it is a difference of 666 pixels, or X, whatever that is, over to this side. And again, I am as far over to this edge as I possibly can get. There's like 16 pixels or 16 whatever this is actually measuring. I don't actually know if it's like centimeters or pixels or what. There's 16 less pixels on the left side of the green box than there are on the right side of the green box. That is kind of mind-blowing a little bit in my opinion, but it does get a little bit better because I decided, you know what happens if I open up the in-game editor like this or something like that and then take some screenshots? Is that a difference? Is this centered? So I use the difference of the slight gray side here and this slight gray side here all the way to the edge, and that is what I took screenshots of next. And as you can see, it is 388x on the left side, perfectly centered or perfectly on the line of this box here and perfectly on the line of this box here. Comparing that to the right side, it is 390 from the right side of the gray box all the way to the edge of the monitor, which means a difference of 2 pixel difference, which means you could safely assume that they're basically in the center. Maybe it's slightly uncentered because of some weird issue or something like that. Maybe I just didn't get it quite right. Maybe I'm a couple of pixels off, whatever. But then I had the same question again. What about the settings? If I open up my settings, what happens here? Is this also centered? So I took a screenshot of that as well, and we did the same thing again. 708 on the left. If you open up the other picture, it has 710, and again, you can see we're on the edge there. So that seems to be a difference of about 2 pixels in this regard as well, from 708 to 710. Seems to be quite a lot, but it's only about 2 pixels. So in my personal opinion, I think every other menu in this game is centered except for the main menu, because 16 pixels is hard. It's hard for you to say that like I messed up and I'm 16 pixels to the left when I should have been 16 pixels to the right or something like that. There's no way I'm 16 off when it comes to measuring the main menu and only 2 off when I measured the other stuff. There's just no way. And so in my personal opinion, and based off of what I've been able to conclude here, the main menu of this game is not centered. Why is it not centered? I have no idea. Maybe it's because PonyTown, maybe because this logo can't be centered, and maybe that's why, I don't know, maybe this part is centered with PonyTown, but the rest of it isn't centered to the screen. Is it just my monitor? I have no idea. I'm completely clueless here. I kind of want your guys' help. I want to see if you guys can measure the distance on your monitors and see if you guys can get a different conclusion than me, because it could just be a monitor thing in all fairness, but it's weird that it's not centered on this monitor on the main menu, but it is on the character editor menu in game, or the settings menu in game. It's very strange, very weird, but there you have it. Those are a handful of things that you probably didn't know about PonyTown. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and doing all of those wonderful things like that, because when you do wonderful things like that, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, but you also get to become wonderful yourself, and I think we all want that. So do those wonderful things, and until next time, stay wonderful.